I've seen Kevin's presentation before. It's pretty straightforward, but if you do get lost, if you have a question, please raise your hand, because chances are like 100% chance that everyone's confused with you. Because this is, to learn how to do the basics, it's pretty hard. But then once you get there, then you're good. Okay, whatever.
Alright, so hey guys, my name is Kevin. I'm a junior in college engineering. So first off, I have a little bit of a cold, so if I start to sound a little stuffed up, don't worry about it. So I know you guys were kind of instructed to download Eclipse before you came. Eclipse is like a very large, for you guys that don't know what Eclipse is, it's an IDE, so an integrated development environment, which means we can basically just throw our code in and we can run our program from there. So Eclipse is really big. You can do a lot of things. It's used for other things besides just Android development. So it's really finicky. So the first time you run it, you might encounter a problem, maybe a little error, something about Java. The best thing to do is to take that problem, that little alert dialog that'll pop up, copy paste it into Google, and there's a million other people who have had the same error. So even I've had Eclipse on my computer for about 1.5 years now, and even I still get errors here and there. So it's just a weird environment because it's so big. So anyway, so we'll be doing Android today. I personally don't own an Android phone, but I think that it's easier to code Android than iOS. And you can do it on your Windows. So I don't have a Mac. I'm too cheap to buy a Mac, so I can develop iOS. So that's why I use Android. So I talked about this before. We're loading up Eclipse. Basically, yeah, you just go to this link. I think it was in the email that you sent out. Pretty much speaks for itself, kind of runs through everything you need to do. It is a little confusing to download. I don't know if you guys, encounter any problems with that, but it's a lot to do. But once you have it and it's running the first couple times, you should be golden. So, and also today I'm going to go very slow when I go over the code. I don't know if anyone has programming experience. I'm just kind of going off the assumption that you have minimal programming experience or no programming experience at all. So for you guys that may know Java already or may have seen this stuff before, just bear with me, go on Facebook, do whatever. And I think we'll also, if you don't have Eclipse up and running, I think we'll also be posting this PowerPoint and probably any associated files to the website. Is that possible?
For sure.
Okay. So if you don't have Eclipse up, just listen, get the grasp, and then we'll upload all the files you need, and you can kind of play around with it later. So I just went over this. Eclipse is just a program where you write a code. It can also simulate an Android phone. So basically, it'll actually load up the Android operating system on an emulator. It'll have a little hardware that you can click and press to see how that works. And that takes a little long to load. But I mean, it's a really cool environment. It's very slow. So when you're running your program, 3 weeks from now when you're doing great apps, and it's running slow, that's just the emulator, but on a phone it looks really nice. So our first app today, I think if you guys went to the iOS development at all 2 weeks ago, it's going to be pretty similar. So we're going to be able to type words into a text box. We'll press a button and they'll show up on the screen, and then we'll also have a couple buttons that'll be able to change the background. So just kind of basic stuff, get you guys used to the Android environment, and from there, I mean, the sky's the limit. You can do a lot of stuff with Android. It's very powerful. So we're going to be setting up a project. So for you guys that have Eclipse set up, I'll actually just do this in Eclipse with you guys. So here's my Eclipse, right? Does everyone have this page? Or those that have Eclipse? Yeah? Okay. I'll just assume you guys are. So just go to File, New, and then when you're in New, go to Android Application Project, not Java Project. Make sure it's the Android Application one. We'll just click on that. So we're going to have to enter our name. I'm just going to call this, what did I use there? Example 1 GAI. So leave all the default settings. Basically, this is just what operating system update we'll be like making this app for. We'll just put the latest. don't worry about the package name, and we'll click next. We'll click next again. And so this screen right here, this is basically where you'll put your icon. If you already have an app that you want to make and you already have the icon for it, this is just to choose the icon. Today we're just going to make our icon just a regular Android one. Yeah, you have that?
I keep getting errors trying to make Eclipse.
Yeah, is it, what does it say? Like,
It just says the Java runtime environment must be available on Eclipse.
yeah, that's a really popular error with Eclipse. Basically the short answer for why that's happening is either you don't have Java, which you probably have Java, and then number two, if your Java folder is in a different folder than Eclipse like defaults to, and it's going to look in that folder and nothing's going to be there, and then it's going to say you don't have Java. So basically the point for that, I would Google that error, and Stack Overflow is a really good website that has a lot of these solutions on it, but basically you're just going to have to go into one of the startup file for Eclipse and change the location that it's going to look at for your Java. It took me a little while to do that the first time I ran Eclipse. It's going to be a little trial and error to make sure you get to the right folder, but definitely just Google the errors. They can explain it better than me, and probably the reason why it happens. Okay, so yeah, this is just your icon. So when you on your phone, you'll just see this. This will be the icon you'll press on. We won't worry about that today. And you can change it later. So if you're making an app, you don't have to make the icon before you even start the application. You can always change this later. But so we'll go next, and we want to have this box check mark that says create activity, and we want something called a blank activity. So we want to just leave that as default. We'll click next. So now I guess I'll talk about, we want to leave these the same, but now I'll talk about what this thing, activity name and layout name means. So the way we do Android is that we kind of have an interior and an exterior. So I usually like to think of it like a car. The layout name is kind of the exterior, you put your flame decals on, you get your rims on to make it look all nice, and then you got the activity, which is the engine that's going to power the car. So one without the other, you can't drive a car without any exterior, any shell, and you can't drive a car without an engine, obviously. So basically, these two things are going to play off each other, and they're going to relate to each other. And basically, you can think of an activity as like a screen. So when you load up your app, you've got your loading screen. That's one activity. Maybe you've got your menu. That would be another activity. When you do Snapchat, it's got three basic screens, right? You've got when you're taking a photo, when you're looking at the photos, and then the one where you add friends. Those are just every screen is a separate activity in Java syntax. So we'll just be making one activity today, and for each activity, you're going to need a layout file to tell the activity what it's got to look like. So we'll just leave those names as the default for today, and we'll just go over and click finish. All right, where's this link? Okay, so this is going to be the screen. Now, did anyone get lost in that that's following along? Is everyone at that screen that they should be at?
Mine's more loaded.
Oh, the Eclipses?
No, my
Oh, really? All right, we'll give you a couple seconds, and I'll try to just explain what this screen is. So this should be appear right after you make your new project. So if you guys did the iOS development at all, or if you know anything about it, basically in Xcode, which is where you develop iPod apps, is you can pretty much take these things and drag and drop them into the screen, and it'll be able to put it where you want, and you can just make the screen graphically. So these little folders over here have everything that Android can do. So I could bring a little plain text thing over here and place that down. I'm not going to do it because we're going to do it through coding, so we can make them a little more custom, and so we actually learn the coding behind it. But so this is basically a list of all the possible things Android can put on its screen. These things are called views by Android. So a lot of them have view on the left end of the name. So, for example, something that's just text would be called a text view. Buttons are just called buttons, but in general, they're going to be called views. That's what we're going to reference them as. So they're basically just little objects that will each have their own attributes and their own, I guess, custom ways that you can make them unique to your app. And I guess we'll delve into that a little more. It's probably a little easier to explain with code. So, all right. So when we're on this screen, we want to take our mouse and go down to this little tab down here that says Activity Main, and we're going to want to click on that. ActivityMain.xml. So right here is where we're going to be programming, or we're going to be writing the code to define the way our layout's going to look. So this is an XML file, so extensible markup language. So it's a little similar to HTML, which is hypertext markup language, which is basically what websites used to be made out of, or their layout was. And so basically, this is just going to be where we're going to put all our code to tell our layout what to look like. And then later, we're going to write a Java code. We're going to write Java that will basically tell what these objects to do. So this, right now, we're just making our app look pretty. So this stuff up here, where you see relative layout, and it goes all the way down to this little greater than or less than sign. I don't know which one that is. We don't have to worry about this at all. This is basically just the default stuff Android puts there. It's just kind of setting up the screen, or setting up the canvas for you to draw on, basically, if your canvas is that application screen. And what we are going to do, however, is we're going to add a little ID tag so we can reference this later, because we'll be changing the background color of this thing called relative layout. So when we're dealing with Android layouts, there's a couple different ways we can do the layouts, basically. So there's a relative layout, in which that will define our views, so our text views, our buttons, anything else you want, scroll bars, loading bars. We're gonna make them all relative to each other. So basically, we're gonna go, this button should be below this text, or this loading bar should be to the right of this input text box. And so that's how we're going to do it today. But other ways you can do it are a linear layout, in which you just make 4 or 5 text boxes, and those will all be one after another, like a list. You can also do a grid layout, so that the objects will fill the screen like a grid. Each one can be used for interchangeably. Basically, you can have one screen that's a grid layout, and you can have one screen that's a relative layout in the same application. It's basically, we're just going to use a relative layout because that's pretty much the most basic one, and the one that's most applicable to a wide range of applications. So basically, our first step and our first code that we're going to alter from what Android gives us is we're just going to add a little ID tag to this relative layout. So, you know what? We'll do that later, actually. Don't worry about it. First, we're going to do this, we're going to change this text view. So, if we go over here to graphical layout and we click that, this is what the app will look like right now if we just ran it with this code right here in the XML file. But if we go to, so this little thing says hello world. That's your text view right there. It's basically just simply just text. It's the pretty most basic Android view there is. But so if we look into the text view, which is contained between this slash and then less sign, or less than sign, and then starts with this greater than in text view, it's all the attributes for that text view are going to be contained in that little container. So we can think of that as like one of its own object within the screen. So if we scroll down here, we see that it has 2 things to begin with: Android layout width and Android layout height. And now every view that we'll make will need those attributes to basically tell the Android operating system how big to make these objects. So if we leave them off and we don't put them in every object we make, we're going to encounter an error. So here it says we have Android layout width, and it says wrap content. Now wrap content just means make this thing as big as it needs to be. It's just, we don't care about its size. We just tell Android, make this thing so that nothing gets cut off, so we can see everything. Which is pretty good when we're not caring about exact dimensions of things. If we don't need the layout to be very tight and very integrated, ours is going to have a lot of room, so we don't really care about how big these objects are going to be. But if we did care about them, we would change this to something like, I'll just throw in a random number, and we put 200 dp. Now dp stands for density of pixels or pixel density, whatever's going to make sense in your mind, but it's basically just the way Android defines length, basically, based on how dense the pixels are in the screen. So for every different device, you're going to have a different pixel density, but pretty much Android kind of works out the kinks itself. So like, it's not like you're going to have your app on one phone and then look at it on a different phone. It's going to look completely different. It's Android is pretty smart, and will make it how you want. We'll make it look how you want it to look. So if we make the layout width 200 dp, we go over to graphical. We see that this box that is containing our text view got a little bigger. The words didn't get any bigger, just the box, but that's because the word size is a whole other attribute that we can define in our text view object. So I'm going to put this back to wrap content. Is this making? Am I going too slow? Too fast? Good. 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 Okay. Okay. So if we go down to this thing that says Android text, and then we see this @ symbol, string / hello world. What does that mean at all? Basically, this is telling Android. It says, look in this folder in the project. Over here we have a project, example GAI. All these folders are part of the project. It says, look in this folder string, and then return what's contained in the hello world tag. So let's go into that right now. So here we have our example 1 GAI. That's the project that we're working on right now. If we scroll down to this in our res folder right here, we open that up, and we go to our values, and we open up this thing called strings. Let's put an X on that. So this is what Android's looking at when it says go to string and do / hello world. Goes down here, and it looks, all right, there's a string that has its name hello world, and we'll return the text that's contained within the string tags. So this is useful if you're using the same word throughout your whole app. Maybe you have 40 screens and all of them have your title on the top, and you don't want to, you're like, oh man, I want to change the name of this app, and you don't want to have to go through 40 screens and change yourself. You can just set up a string in here, put what you want the title of your application to be, and then in every text box or a title that'll use it, you can just reference that string. So that's what these are used for. I don't really use these at all. This is a little annoying to me. I like to just go back into the actual layout file that we're working on and just type the text that we want. So if we go back to activity main here, we're going to get rid of this @ string / hello world, and we're just going to write your message. So the reason I wrote your message is that this text view is eventually going to be the piece of text that when we type, if we go back to what this application is going to do, we're basically going to be able to enter text, and then we'll hit a button, and then the text will appear. So this text right here is basically in the input text box. So for now, I'm just putting your message, that'll be the default, and then every time you press the button, that text will change. But so another thing all Android objects or all Android views need, they don't necessarily need it, but you're always going to want to do this just to keep everything on track and so that you can reference it later, is an ID name. So basically, we're going to give it a little ID. It's just like your ID that you have in your wallet. It just defines you as that person. So later on, we can go, all right, we want to do something with this text view. Like later when we're going to change the actual text content, we're going to want to reference this text view. So what we need to write is this Android semicolon or colon. That's a colon. And then ID equals at plus ID slash, and let's name this your message. Okay, so let me explain that a little bit. So first off, you can see that in all these attributes, we always have to put Android and then a colon before. Now this is a little repetitive. It might seem, a little illogical. Why are we doing that? This is basically to tell Android, look in this library and then look for this attribute. So basically, when we have our object, it's going to go, all right, let's set up the ID attribute, but it's not going to know which ID is set up. There's many different libraries in Eclipse, and so we basically have to define that we need to look in the Android library. That's pretty much the short version. Just make a habit to always write Android before every attribute we have. It's going to get a little repetitive, trust me, but as of now, I don't know if there's a way to get rid of that. But for now, we'll just write Android and then colon, and then the attribute that we want to change. So then when we go to this ID, we use Android colon ID, and then we're going to do equals, and we need to put this at and this plus ID sign. So if we see this right here, this at plus ID, if we just put this without the at plus and we just had ID slash your message, we'd still set the ID for the attribute, but it'd only be within this screen, this layout file. So when we go over to our Java file later, it won't be able to reference this because the ID won't be a global ID. We won't be able to apply it to all the files in the project. It'll just be in this .xml file specifically. So when we add this little at sign plus, we're basically going, make this ID available to every other file in the project. So at first, it may seem a little weird while we're doing that, but basically it's just an identifier, so Android will store that in the basically the file that will hold all the global text views. But basically, this is just so we can reference it later, this at plus. So this is our text view. All right, we'll move on to our next object. So our next object is going to be this thing called edit text. So this is pretty common. It's basically just a piece of text that you can type your name or type anything into. So when you log on to Facebook or do anything that you type text into, basically that's what the edit text Android function copies. It does the same thing. So we're going to write edit text here, or we can just scroll over and click this, and it'll make our edit text in the container. So we're going to want to just give it a little space so we can write the attributes. So our first thing that we're going to want to do is, again, we're going to want to write Android, colon, and we're going to want to give it an ID. Equals at plus ID. And I guess we'll name this text input, because that's exactly what it does. It's just going to allow us to input text into that field. It's pretty simple. So again, we're going to have to do our layout height and our layout width. So we'll do Android layout underscore width. And let's just make that 200 EP. And then we'll go down to, whoops, go down to the next line. We'll make that Android layout height. And that one, we don't really care. We'll just make that wrap content. So I guess when we've been putting in this layout height and layout width, basically anything that is going to deal with the location of something on the screen, we're going to want to we're going to have this little layout underscore before it. So all the attributes that deal with the object where it's located, whether it's going to be in the bottom left corner, or whether we want it in the middle, or whether we want it taking up the whole screen, it's always going to have this little layout and then some attributes. So layout height, layout width. Such things as text, which basically controls the attributes within the object. So the text of that text view or the text of that button is not going to have the layout because that has nothing to do with the layout at all. So that's just something, a lot of the time I'll be writing code and I'll forget to have this little layout thing. And then I'll call the wrong attribute or the object won't have that attribute. So basically all the attributes that deal with the location of the object on the screen has this little layout kind of precursor to what attribute we actually want to change. So this edit text, if you look right now, we'll go to the graphical layout and just to see what our app looks like right now with a text view and an edit text with just the width and height defined. So if we go right here, there's our edit text, that little line right there. When we run our app, we'll be able to just type on there and do whatever we want with the keyboard. But it doesn't look very good because it's all in the top left corner. So we kind of want things centered, maybe things below each other. We don't want them overlapping. So that's what we'll do right now. We'll basically move the edit text over the middle of the screen. So to do that, we'll need to go to our edit text container, our edit text object, and that contains all our attributes, and we'll need to throw another attribute in there. Now this attribute is going to be called layout, again because it deals with the location of the object on the screen, and we'll make that center horizontal. And we're going to set that equal to true. So the way I like to think of this line right here is that we basically go, we ask Android, or Android asks us if this edit text is going to be centered horizontally. And we're going to say, yeah, it's going to be centered horizontally. That's going to be true. If we made it false, we basically would say it's not going to be centered horizontally. So pretty self-explanatory. So this is going to make it, we scroll back over to our graphical layout. This is going to put it right in the center. And Android will figure that out where the center is, and then just grow it basically from the center line. So that looks a little nicer. So we're gonna add one more thing, and that's gonna be our button. But I should ask first, does anyone have any questions at all? Yeah.
I can't install Java.
Download the JDK or JDK.
Yeah.
Java, it just ends up, it's Edgeworth is versing the not available on my
Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think you're gonna have to re-download it.
No, not that one.
It says your rendering library is more recent than your version. I haven't seen that one before actually. So first time for everything. Let's see. Yeah, your XML file looks good. So yeah, it might just deal with the ADT. I don't know if that's going to be a problem when we run our emulator, but your XML file looks good. No, he had one where it says his name was
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be under properties. So file properties.
Sir, your hair is still cold or sticky? Yeah.
I actually don't know. That's a great question. Yeah, you got a question?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't see because of the light. Oh.
They never work on Windows.
Nope.
Here's your Excel files.
Oh man.
What did you do it up? Setup just 814 kilobytes.
Yeah, that's just because we found it annoying. Did you follow the where the ad string did? Oh, okay. Okay. It basically went to this file we had called strings, and it looked for the string that was called hello world. All right. So I don't know. Oh, you spelled in.
Wait, what is this?
Yeah, I'll try that.
Have you figured this out now? Or are you still on?
Here's the problem. I am trying to install Java.
Okay, no, you want Google JDK, okay? That's what it's different. It's the Java Developers Kit. Okay, and then this, scroll down, this is going to
Yeah, you use the layout.
see right there. You're doing the same. Yeah. And then you show line number.
You gotta buy. Oh, you gotta buy. Alright, so if you guys want to show line numbers, go right click the left hand side, and then you can like it'll be like a little column on the left where the line numbers should be. Right click, and then you show line numbers.
Yeah.
Thanks to Braxton over here.
I get another error. It says that the installer's not available to sync.
Well, then you're going to have to get out of safe.
As long as it's the same as this, or whatever it is.
So we've been looking at
I think
I think it's the AGT bundle. It's like a lot more like they want you to do shit right. Like, okay.
So you can just we only leave basically need so they're like
Download the SDK.
so if you change things should be good so then you change something with the project so like the reference layout so once they show line number you can just copy that. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I think you have the same tech. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Well, okay. So you downloaded the bundle, right? That includes Eclipse.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Oh.
And it has Alright, so what they so what we're going to do so go to that folder.
Is this exclusive or? Where do I have to go?
Yeah. And it'll open the T bundle.
Alright, wait. Why is it locked? Why is it locked?
Yeah. Wherever you download.
Yeah, we're gonna. I extract this one extract.
Then not with the bullet.
And then.
So it's only the
That's so that for people who don't have Eclipse running on their computer, they can.
Yeah, so you can still follow along.
And also then when we publish the videos on YouTube, Patrick, who's wonderful, can overlay what's going on his screen onto the videos, so it's a bit clearer.
Yeah, so you guys that don't have Eclipse or there's a problem with Eclipse, it's probably going to take a little longer than the time we have left for you to get it up and running. So yeah, just go to join.me/in-lane, and you should be able to see my screen, and we'll just be able to follow along, so that you kind of get a feel for the.
Alright. Yeah, so this is good. Anyone have any outstanding questions? Yes. Alright, yeah, just follow along in the join.me if you're on.
Okay. So we're gonna put one more object on our screen, and then we're gonna start doing Java. So we're gonna actually make this thing run. So the Java is actually gonna be pretty easy compared to this stuff right now. I'm just kind of going through trying to make sure you guys all get how to define the attributes for object, how to position them. So we'll do one more, and this is gonna be our button. So I'm actually going to, I'll put the button below the edit text actually. So we're finished with our edit text right now. And we're going to do button. We're going to make that little container for the button. Now this is just a standard button. Nothing special about it. It's just going to look just like if you're on the in your web browser and there's a button there. It's going to look just like that. So again, we're going to have to define its ID so we can reference it later. So Android ID equals @+ID, and then we're going to say the send button. This is the button we'll click, and our text view that we made earlier, the text will change. So then we're going to specify the layout width and layout height. Layout. We're just going to make this 100 dp. No reason at all. I'm just throwing a number in there. And we're going to do layout height. We don't really care how high it is, so we're just going to do wrap content. So right now, I just want to really hammer this point home. These 3 lines you should always have in every object you make. And obviously a different ID for every object. That's really the most basic step we need when we're making our layout files. Because that's how we're, Android's not going to have an error, and then we're going to reference those things later because the IDs. So everything else after is just stylizing the objects that we have and then positioning them in the screen. But this is the most basic things that we always need. Android ID, Android layout width, Android layout height. So now we're going to do, we're just going to put the text we want it to have. So again, we're going to do Android text, and we're just going to make that equal to send. Now you'll probably get a warning that for some reason they don't want this text hard-coded. You should use the string resource. Again, I find that very annoying, having to go down to your string file and then make a new string, type that in. So we're just going to, since we're only using it once, we're just going to throw in the text that we want. So when we go over to graphical layout, you see our little button there. But all this stuff looks real cluttered. Doesn't look good at all. But we have all our objects up on the screen. So now we're just going to position them relative to each other. So what I'm going to do is put the send button below the edit text, and then I'm going to put the text message, I'm going to put the text below the send button. So that's what we'll do next. So let's go to button, and I'm actually going to order these in the way that they're going to be on the screen just so we can kind of visualize it. So I just cut that, and I'm just going to move this down below the button. So right now we have our 3 things in the way we want them. So we're going to use, since this is a relative layout, we can basically tell. So for our button, we're just going to do Android. And then we're, again, since we're dealing with the layout, we're going to do layout below. And then this is where we deal with the ID identifier and why we have it. We're basically going to want to put this button below this edit text. So we're telling Android that we want to be below, and then we're going to reference the edit text. So this is, we're going to put in the ID for the edit text. So @ plus ID, text input. So we'll go to our graphical layout, and the way this should be set up is that we're going to have this button right below the edit text. So there it goes. It's not centered, but it's definitely below it. So that's that one line. Change it from just up in the top left corner where everything starts, and moved it down below. Did you have a question? That didn't happen. Did you define your ID correctly? All right. Let me run through this, and I'll come over and we'll just see what's going on. But so we're gonna do this, and now since we're gonna want that button to not just be on the left, we're just gonna put it in the center. So again, we're gonna do the Android, and we're just gonna use our center horizontal attribute again on our button. So layout, just like we did before for the edit text, center horizontal is gonna be equal to true. So if you look at our graphical layout, it's right in the middle. Looks a little nicer than before. Looks a little nicer. So now we're going to do the same thing with our text view. So we're going to go to our text view, and we're going to put those two lines in. We're going to first do Android, layout, center horizontal. We're going to make that true. And then we're going to do Android, layout. Since we're again dealing with its location, we're going to do below. So we want to put it below the button. So we're going to reference the button's ID tag. So send button. So right there, that's everything we need. But so if we look at this right here, it looks a little cluttered. They're very close to each other. So I'm going to introduce something that's very useful. That's called margins. So if any of you guys have worked with HTML, or any of you guys, I guess it's pretty much just intuitive. Your margins are basically how far you want an object to be from another object. So if I give the text view margins of 10 pixels, I'm going to say every time we move this text view around, I want it at least 10 pixels away from the closest object. So that's going to give us a little space between our objects. And make it look a little nicer around and have everything cluttered up at the top. So in our text view, we just have to define the margins in the direction that we want. So we're not gonna have anything to the right or the left of the text view. So we don't have to worry about the margins to the right or the left. We're just gonna do the margin to the top. So Android, and again, this deals with the layout, so we're gonna use the layout first, layout underscore. Then we're going to do margin, top. And then we're going to set that equal to 20 dB. So here, we again start with our Android, we start with our layout, because it deals with where it's going to be located on the screen. We're just going to put this little attribute margin top. So we could change this top to margin bottom. We could make this bottom, we could make that left, we could make that right. And every time it's going to basically tell Android how much space we want in that direction to the from the closest object. So if we wanted to do layout bottom as well, we could do that right next to the margin, layout bottom, and we can set that equal to 20 dB as well, or any pixel density we want. I'm going to erase this line just because we don't need it at all. But it's not like you can only have a margin in one direction. I can set a margin for every single direction that is possible. And usually when you're making a big app and you really want the layout to look nice, you might have to go into that much detail. So now we should have our text views. We should have a little space, a little space between it and the button. So there we go. There's a little space, and it looks a little nicer. So when you guys click graphical layout, this is the layout that you should get, or something similar. Maybe you were playing around with the attributes, but this is basically what we want as we go into creating our Java file. So are there any outstanding questions at all? No, none at all? Okay. Cool. Yeah. All right, I'll be over in a second. I just want to get people started on this Java. So let's go back to our XML. So this is kind of the boring stuff. We're kind of just like defining things, making them look good, moving them around. This can get very nitpicky. I've spent a lot of time maybe just doing layouts and trying to get it just right. But to tell you the truth, this is the boring stuff. The Java's where the fun happens. So that's where we'll actually make these things come alive and basically do actions whether we click on them or whatever we want to do with them. So what we're going to need to do is over here on the left side, we're going to need to scroll up, and so we should have, this is the project we're working on, example 1 GIA. So we're going to open that up, and right underneath the project name, there should be a little folder called SRC. This stands for source. So this is where Java looks when it's looking for, or not Java, this is where Android looks when it's looking for its source files, or the engine behind the layout files. So we're going to open this up. And that's our package. We don't need to worry about that now. And we're going to open up this file right here called mainactivity.java. So this is the Java file we made at the beginning when we made the new project. It said activity file, and then it also said layout file. We were just doing the layout. Now we're going to do the activity. So I'll just double click on main activity. Should open up my screen. So this is what Java writes automatically, or what Eclipse writes automatically. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our mouse and we're just going to scroll over to this thing that says override public boolean on creates option menu, and make sure you get the right number of brackets. So it should just be this bracket and that bracket. From there, we're just going to delete that. We don't need to worry about that. Basically, that's just Java or Eclipse setting it up. So it kind of gives you a little push down that path. A lot of apps use the options create menu or the options menu, but we're not going to do it for our app. So we just want this onCreate method, and then our class and all this stuff that Android and Eclipse gave to us on default. Did I see a question in the back, or were you just stretching?
Actually, I just accidentally deleted the main activity. Close the main activity main file. Where is it located?
Okay, so you're going to go up to your project right here, an example. I call the example 1, so this is my project. Okay. And then you're going to go into source. Then you're going to open up this has a little package icon. You're going to open up that, and then you should be able to see mainactivity.java.
Oh, no, I meant the XML file.
Oh, the XML file? Oh, okay. So that's the XML file. Actually, that's a good question. I didn't go over that. The XML file is going to be, so I'm going to close all these files. So this is what you should see when all your files are closed. You're going to have your project name. You're going to go down to this folder called res, or resources. You're going to open that up, and there's going to be these things: drawable, layout, menu, values. These are all specific for specific things in Java. Just for a quick overview, this is where you put your images, and then this is just attributes for other things. I don't really use that much. And as you see, this is where we got our strings.xml before. But basically, you're going to want to go into the layout folder, and it should be activity main.xml right there. You get it? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. All right. So yeah, that's where all your layout files are going to be stored. So we'll go back to our Java page, or our Java activity. So this may be the first time anyone, some of you have ever looked at Java code before. It's definitely a little intimidating, but trust me, a lot of people code with Java, a lot of people just code in general, and once you start getting used to it, it's going to become like a second language to you. So basically, just to run through it chronologically, this thing that says package, that's what we weren't worried about up here. We defined it in our project. You're never going to really need to change this for the apps that we use. This is basically just saying, you know, everything that we need for this app is going to be in this package, and it just references that package. Like, look in this package for all the things that just doesn't default come with Android. So we don't need to worry about that. No one's probably going to have to worry about that for another, you know, for a while actually when you're coding in Android. So next down here is going to be this this thing that says import android.os.bundle. Basically, these are just what libraries we need to import. So the Java Android libraries are so huge that it doesn't want to import everything if we're not going to need to use it. So the libraries basically hold all your default objects like a text view, buttons, everything we put in. Basically, these imports go when they basically allow us to use those objects. So when you don't have the right import in, and we're calling for an object that we haven't imported yet, Java's not going to know what to do. But Eclipse is really easy with that. It'll basically just default and import it for you. So then we go down to our class. So our class is called main activity, and that's just the file name we gave to it. And it's going to extend this other thing called activity. So what I was talking about before, activities are pretty much screens. And they're going to be the workhorse behind every screen are these Java files. So extends means that we're basically going to inherit all the attributes of this class called activity, which Android and Eclipse has already defined, and we're going to be able to use all of its attributes. And then we're going to add some as well. So we're going to be extending activity beyond what it can already do, but we're going to be using activity as a base. So that's really, we don't really need to worry about that. That's stuff a little more advanced than just writing a little app. So every activity needs this this piece of code right here on create, which means that this is going to be the first method that when your app starts to load, it's going to look for this method called onCreate. And now a method is pretty much a little function. If you guys are engineering students, if you guys want to run functions in MATLAB, basically it's just a little piece of text that performs an action. So in our onCreate method, it's going to perform an action that's just going to basically tell this file what layout we're going to be using, and then it's just going to set up all the objects for us. So we don't want to mess with this line. We don't want to mess with really any of this for now. But when we go on to multiple screens, we're going to want to be able to change what layout we're going to reference. So that means that in this little thing that says set content view, that's going to say, all right, this file doesn't know what layout we're working with. Even if it's just the default and we haven't even changed anything. It's not going to know. But we're going to call this thing called set content view, and it's going to go to r.layout, which is where all of your IDs are stored, which we don't need to worry about. But it's going to say set this this view, this screen, to activity_main, which is the layout file we were working on before. So we're going to leave that alone because that's the default. So that's it in our onCreate. So what we're going to need to do first is we're going to need to basically define the variables that are going to be referenced, the views that we made in our layouts. So if you just follow along, we'll just first do our edit text. So again, it's going to be the same thing that we use in the XML file. We're going to just call it edit text, and we're going to call this enter message. And so we have a little error thing there, but I'll address that in a second. But basically what we're doing right now is we're just going to say, we're going to have a variable called enter message, that's going to have the type of edit text. And so edit text is what we were working on before, where we can just type the text in later when we have our Android app. So as I was saying before, when we were talking about importing things, we don't have the edit text library imported. So right here, Eclipse has a little error that says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what an edit text is. So if you just take our mouse and slowly put it over, we don't have to click it all, a little fix is going to come up that says import edit text. So we're going to want to scroll down there, just click that says import edit text. So we open up our import. We have one more import that is android.widget.edit text. So now it knows what the edit text is. So now we're going to do this with our next two objects. So we're going to define our button, and we're just going to call that send. Since that's what the text of the button is, it'll just make it easier to call the button what it says on its name. And we're also going to put in our text view. We're going to call that text. Or actually, let's call that, let's call it text. It didn't turn blue?
No, it's
Okay. Yeah, good to hear. So when it's blue, that means that it's a variable in Eclipse. So again, we're going to have to import these libraries. So we'll go to button. I just scrolled over. I didn't press anything. I just scrolled over, and this little window popped up. We're going to want to hit import. So that's going to import it. We're going to want to do the same with text view. Just scroll over, didn't press anything, and we're going to scroll down to import. And now that's imported. And if we open up our imports, we can see this thing is growing in size for everything that we import. So at this point, we've defined our variables that we're going to use, but they're still not connected to our specific text view, which I think the ID was just message or something. It's not connected to what we define in our layouts. We've just made variables that will eventually connect. That's because, for example, if you have 5 or 6 text views, it's not going to know which text view it wants. So you're going to have to specify that. And we're going to do that in this onCreate method. So basically, when the app loads up, we're going to go to this onCreate, and it's going to set the layout view, and then it's going to set all these variables to the views that we want to associate them with. So we're going to go down here, right behind our set content view. We're going to have to open that up, give it a couple spaces, and so what we're going to want to do is do enter message equals, and so that's what was wrong. Okay, not yet. We're going to want to put edit text, and then we're going to use this method called find view by ID. We'll close that out real quick. So we're going to put something in here right now, so there should be an error there. But so this is basically saying, so we have our variable that's of the edit text type. We're going to want that to equal whatever view we're going to find, and we're going to reference as the edit text that we want it to find. And we have to have this right here because this can return any view that we want. So we're going to tell this thing that we want it to return an edit text, and then basically we're going to cast it to be the type of edit text view that we'll program it, and then it'll be contained in our variable edit text. So we're going to real quick go over to our activity main, which I'm actually going to see, and that's called add ID text input. So that's what our ID is for the edit text. So in this, we're gonna use the r.id.text input. So this file R, which is located somewhere in these folders, we don't really need to know now, basically is another Java file that contains all the IDs and all and references all the IDs that we or all the views that we made in our layout. So that's why we use this r.id dot the IDs anyways. So we'll do that real quick for the next few buttons. So we're going to need send. We're going to want that to be a button. We're going to want to use find view by ID, r.id dot send button. Make sure to always put a semicolon on the end of your lines. We're going to want text equal text view. find view by ID dot your message. That's what we called it. Okay. So here we just set up all our variables. Now all these variables are going to be associated with the views that we want. So we're pretty much close to done. Now all we have to do is we're just going to put in our little method that's going to take the text from the edit text, and it's when we click the button, it's going to put it in the text view. So that's going to be one method that we're also going to write in our onCreate. So that is going to be, we're going to do send. And now I'm going to write this code out and then I'll go over it. So just follow along. It's definitely a little weird. At first. So set on click listener. So that's the method that we're going to use with our button. We're going to need to call new. Okay. So after writing this, we're going to have to fix these couple errors. And this just deals with not having the libraries imported. So as before, when you guys are done writing that, we're just going to scroll over the red. We're going to go import view. So that's going to import the view library. Then we're going to go to onClick listener. We're going to import onClick listener. Give you guys a couple seconds to write that out. So is this going too fast, too slow for you guys? You all know what I'm talking about, or is this good pace? I don't want to bore you guys. I know it's a Saturday, but we're pretty much done. We're pretty much done with this. Yep.
For some reason, whenever I type into what exactly video type, I get red lines on the red squiggly lines under the text inputs and put it in your message first.
Oh, they still have the squiggly?
Yeah.
Have you imported their libraries yet? No. So basically what you're going to want to do is take your mouse and go over the parts that are going to have the red underline, the red squiggly underlines. And don't click anything, just put it over, and you're going to see kind of a dialog pop up, and there's going to be an option that says import, this library, and you're going to want to click on that. It's going to be like import edit text or something.
I already imported them.
You already imported
I meant the ones that say text input send button in your message.
Yeah, the same.
These all red?
No, just
The one at the
very right.
RID text.
Oh, this is red?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The ones that do that are blue when you're
Okay, and so if these are red, then that means what you should do is go over to your XML file. So go over to your XML file, and what we're going to want to do is save this file. So just click the save up here. No, I should do save all. So it should save, and then when you go over to your activity, is it all good now?
No, mine is still red.
Still red. That's actually pretty interesting. Okay, so the reason that I did the save is that every time we save, it's going to write all the new variables that we made to that R file. So we hadn't saved yet, or at least I hadn't saved before I wrote this. So these weren't in the file yet, but when you hit save, then these go in the file. But basically, one comment is that this r.id and this part right here needs to be the same name that we use in our layout file. So if you see for the edit text, I have the ID, and it's after the slash, it says text input. And that's exactly what I have, r.id, and then text input right there. So in my send button, it says /send button, and I take that, and I use that exactly in the r.id. So if you guys maybe named it something different, or maybe missed, had a typo or something, make sure that those two names match up.
Can I see the XML?
Yeah. So those are IDs right there.
Yeah, and if you can't see if you're far away, either go to the join.me and then see what basically.
So who has red? Okay. Yeah. So let's take a break right now.
Let's
Before
just
we're
like make
gonna
sure
run this.
everyone's on the same page right now.
Yeah, and we'll have Habib and I don't know if Annie wants to go
Yeah.
down or just do a little overview.
So yeah, just ask us if you need help.
Okay.
You got people who know what they're doing. Alright, David, yeah, help people. And, alright, hold on. This is actually so yeah, when you guys added the on-click listener class, it wasn't really like, we told you to just like kind of import stuff, and it was like when you highlighted this, you couldn't really import anything. And then when you highlighted this, it said you want to create a new class on-click listener. That's what the tooltip told you. But what you really need to do is the third option. For some reason, it was on the bottom of the list. And there, that's where you go. You import on-click listener from the view class. So what you want to do, like the order, probably import the view and import the on-click listener class. A lot of you have gotten some errors because you created your own class. Now you don't want to create your own on-click listener class because it already exists and you want to use it.
Alright, so a couple of you guys still have errors. We found people to work with you. So now we're just going to run our application. So right now we have our Java, we have our layouts, and I'm hoping that this thing runs because if not, I messed up. But so what we're going to do is we're going to take our mouse and we're going to go up to this little play button. So this is the first time we hit this. Every time we have a new project, it's going to ask us how we want it to run it. So we're going to hit this play button and we're going to click Android application. So make sure it says Android application. So that little green button.
A lot of us don't see that bar. How do you make that appear?
This bar at the top.
Yeah, we have like the file menu bar, but not the whole.
Okay. So let me cancel it. Yeah, so we'll go to run. Let me move this. Go to run. And I don't think we need to do run configurations yet. I think if we just hit run, the same screen will pop up. So if you go to the run file on the top and then go down to run, and this run as should come up if this is your first time running this project. And we're going to hit Android application. And then before we hit OK, before we enter the void, basically Eclipse is very finicky, as I said before. So specifically for my Eclipse, what I have to do is I have to run it, and then an error pops up, and then I have to run it another time, and then close the first time for it to work. So I don't know how I figured that out, but basically Eclipse might come up with some errors for you guys when the first time you guys run this. And it just is because Eclipse is so big. It's got nothing to do with your files unless it says build aborted, there's an error in your XML or Java file. But sometimes when we're basically making the Android operating system run on this computer. So that's a pretty heavy workload for your computer to do, run another operating system. So we might encounter some errors. So as the pizza comes in, we'll just hit OK, and we'll have a little time for our app to run. It's going to take a little bit to boot up the Android OS and then for it to install on the screen, but we should be able to see our app in 5 minutes or less. So hit OK, and this little screen should pop up. I already have mine up, but this little thing should pop up. It should be black at first, and then it'll slowly say Android on it for a while, and then it'll get to this lock screen so that I can like actually use it like an Android phone. But as you can see, it's very slow.
So,
You gotta use the,
You might have to download some drivers.
you gotta go to the virtual manager, virtual device manager. I don't know what. With that button over there, kind of. What the hell happened? Yeah, you totally got it. You're the I'm totally offended. Alright, yeah, so that button. 2 buttons to the right of that.
Okay, so this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, you create a new virtual manager, virtual device manager.
EGA.
Yeah, so do you wish to add a new Android virtual device? So we're going to want to click yes. So this is going to go over. So what we're going to do is move this Android device chooser. Launch it.
You have to cancel that. And then
Alright, so we have our Android virtual device manager. So we're going to want to go over to new. Everyone following? We're going to want to go over to new. We're going to want to click that. We're just going to give it a name. Let's just see run app 1 or something. Any name will work. So we're going to want to go down to device, and we're going to want to choose whatever device we want to display this on. So is it Nexus 4 phone? I don't know any Android.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. We'll just click Nexus 4. Target, we're going to want to put Android 4.3, and the rest of this should fill out. Okay, so I think we're just going to want to hit OK. I don't think we need to change anything here. So now we should have that Android device appear. Is everyone on that page? Everyone go through that? So this is, sometimes maybe you want to run the app on a tablet, you want to run the emulator on a tablet. So you can add that device, maybe you want to try it on a phone. So we should be all good. So let's click out of this one and let's try to run it again. Okay. So now, down here it says launching a new emulator with virtual device run app 1. So it should take a little while for it to pop up. Failed to allocate memory. Alright. Is everyone encountering this error? No? Is yours up and running at all?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, it's loaded? Yeah, perfect. That's what you want. Alright, so it's all loaded. Alright. So while that's loading, do we want to do pizza while it's loading? And then afterwards we'll do
Yeah, I mean, this virtual machine stuff for the Java thing, it takes ever.
Yeah, so it should take like 5 minutes for your app to load up the first time. You got this one? Alright. If we do pizza now, I'll try to Google this and see what we can do.
Yeah.
So you guys can go enjoy. And then if you have any errors, come up to me and I'll try to solve those out for you. Like I said before, people are going to encounter errors just because Eclipse is pretty finicky, I guess is the word I could use. You guys that have those errors? Does anyone else has an error? Yours is working? You don't need them to know that. You have this error? Okay. So this is what we're going to do. So before we run, what we're going to want to do is go to run, and then go to run configurations. So we're going to want to click that. So we should get up on this screen. So we're all there. Run configurations. So go over to target. Hit that, and then I just click this, but we're going to want to do click always prompt to pick device. So that's every time we run it, it's going to go what device do you want to run it on rather than just the default. And then we're just going to want to click run when we're done with that. Are you guys all cut up on that? Okay. So click run. This screen should pop up, the Android device chooser. So this is the device we're trying to run, and the thing is we allocated way too much memory, so Windows is going to crash it. So
we're going to want to go scroll to launch a new Android virtual device, and that should allow us to hit the Manager tab. So we're going to hit Manager, and we're just going to add a new device like we did last time. So we'll just give it run at 2. We're going to still put on Nexus 4. We're going to do Android 4.3. What we're going to do is move this RAM down to 700. Just say 700. And so that should actually work. So we should hit OK. And yeah.
Alright, guys. You can try Android today, iOS some other day, Windows 8 another day, and then add all that shit to your resume, and people will, be like, holy crap. So I guess the main takeaway was like you have a layout file and a Java file, and and it's pretty similar throughout across the board with all the mobile applications. What am I trying to say here? Yeah, I need some pizza.